This started with my hand surgery back in May. At first, I had a very good reason to stay home and do very little. I'd had surgery on my other hand quite a few years ago, and during that recovery, I fell and broke my collarbone. So this time, and it was a nightmare. So this time I wasn't taking any chances. For 3 weeks, my hand was bandaged. Then I spent another 5 weeks in a cast. I told myself, stay home, take it easy, and do not fall. Just heal. And that's what I did. The problem is, I got used to it. At first, being home all the time and pretty much doing nothing was kind of boring, and I felt lazy. But I also had an excuse. I was recovering, and having a legitimate reason to do nothing makes doing nothing very easy to accept. Eventually, the cast came off. I finished occupational therapy, and that's when I realized something I didn't want to admit. I didn't need to stay home anymore. I just wanted to. And that's when the guilt started. Not because I wasn't productive enough, but because I could feel myself becoming too comfortable sitting out of my own life. And this is kind of where solo retirement comes in. I do think solo retirement makes this easier. One of the things I love most about living alone is all the freedom to eat, sleep, travel, stay home in my pajamas whenever I want. Usually that freedom feels terrific, but nobody depends on me to get up and get moving. Nobody else's schedule, except for my cats, Thelma and Louise, forces me out of the house. If I want to sit in a chair half the day, I can. If I don't feel like going anywhere, I don't have to. And that freedom can become very comfortable, maybe too comfortable. Before surgery, I played golf at least once a week, met friends for lunch, and tried to get to the gym, practiced Italian, and I was learning to play piano. Some of those activities were things I started specifically as a solo retiree, affordable ways to keep my mind occupied and give myself something to look forward to. But over the last few months, much of that has gone by the wayside. And I've noticed a pattern. The less I do, the less I want to do. The less I move, the less energy I have. And the less energy I have, the easier it is to stay home again the next day. That's the cycle I'm worried about. I've also become very, very good at making deals with myself. I'll go to the gym tomorrow. I'll start a routine tomorrow. I'll start watching what I eat tomorrow. Tomorrow sounds wonderful because it requires nothing from me today. Then tomorrow comes and I feel exactly the same way. I can blame some of this on the weather. It's been incredibly hot here, and walking outside feels like exercising in an oven. But there's also an air-conditioned gym available to me. Eventually, the weather stops being a reason and starts becoming an excuse. I'm an introvert. I like being home and being alone. I don't need constant activity or people around me to be happy. There's nothing wrong with that. One benefit of solo retirement is being able to live according to your own personality instead of somebody else's expectations. But I also know myself. If I'm not careful, my love of solitude can become an excuse to withdraw. Solitude is something I choose to enjoy. Isolation is when my world gets smaller because staying home has become easier than going out, and that's what I don't want. I don't think doing nothing in retirement is necessarily bad. We've earned the right to have lazy days and no plans. Retirement doesn't have to be one long list of activities, and I don't want that either. The problem is when one day becomes several and several days start feeling normal. There's a difference between I'm staying home today because I want to, and I'm staying home because I don't feel like doing anything anymore. Let's see if I can turn this around. Look at Thelma. You missed it. She was trying to get out of the window, the closed window. Anyway, I know that if I stop moving my body and challenging my mind, I'm not doing myself any favors. I don't need to squeeze the most out of every second of retirement, but I also don't want to waste years sitting in the same chair because I got too comfortable. Time matters more to me now. Not in a panicked way, just realistically. I want to use the years I have well. For me, that means staying engaged mentally, physically, socially, even in small ways. The strange thing is, when somebody asks me to go somewhere, my first reaction lately is often, ugh, I don't feel like getting dressed. I'd rather stay home. But I usually force myself to go. And once I do, I never regret it. That tells me I can't completely trust the voice saying, I don't feel like it. If I keep listening to that voice, my world could get smaller and smaller. So that's the downside for me of freedom. Maybe that's the downside of solo retirement that I didn't expect. You have so much freedom that sometimes you have to create your own structure. Nobody else is going to notice that you've been sitting around too much. When you live alone, you have to be the person who notices. And lately, I've noticed. So what am I going to do? I'm not going to suddenly fill my calendar. That would defeat the purpose. I still want quiet days, lazy afternoons, and freedom that made me love solo retirement in the first place. But I need some structure back. My first focus is exercise. My hand is healed enough to use some of the machines again at the gym, and I can certainly walk on a treadmill. So my goal is to get to the gym 3 times a week, not when I feel like it, because we know how that turns out. But as part of my routine, I'm also going to start small with everything else. 1 or 2 intentional things a day, maybe Italian, eventually piano again when my hand allows it, maybe getting out of the house for a while. It doesn't have to be exciting. It just has to be something. Maybe the guilt is trying to tell me something. At first, I thought the guilt was the problem. I thought I needed to stop feeling guilty for doing nothing. But now I think I need to listen to it a little bit. I don't think the guilt is saying you're lazy. I think it's saying this isn't how you want to spend your retirement. And it's right. I love living alone. I love the freedom. But I don't want freedom to turn into inertia or solitude to turn into isolation. Most of all, I don't want to wake up one day and realize I spent a big part of my retirement sitting on the sidelines of my own life. So I'm going to start pretty small. 3 trips to the gym, 1 or 2 intentional things a day, and hopefully fewer promises about what I'm going to start tomorrow. I'm curious if any of you who are retired alone have experienced this. Has all that freedom ever made it too easy to stay home, do less, and eventually want to do even less? And if you've pulled yourself out of that kind of rut, what worked for you? I have a feeling this may be one of those parts of solo retirement we don't talk enough about. Thank you for tuning into this video, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye-bye.